So, you want to print a royal broadsword, huh? Or maybe the royal guard sword is more your style. Either way, keep watching. I'll show you how to make both of them in the instructions that follow. Okay, so first things first, of course, you gotta print everything out. Here is everything laid out, more or less in the orientation that it will be in when we actually assemble it, but you're gonna need 4 pegs, blade core 1, 2, 3, and 4. These are all of the blades, these blue parts here. They're named A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and H. And then that letter is attached to either left or right, depending on what side they're on. Don't worry though, they are perfectly symmetrical. And in fact, all of the pieces except for C and G will only fit onto the place where they're supposed to fit. Like you can't accidentally put something in the wrong place. And the aforementioned C and G are literally the exact same. So even if you mix all of them up, you'll still get the same correct orientation. Then we have the handle, the cross guard, the 2 emblems, cross guard blade, and then the blade design. Now, I recommend you print the blade design last so you can keep it stuck to your build plate like this. So that way you can take it off piece by piece and put it on and you don't get anything lost. And then if you want to print out the sheath, you can print out the sheath's pegs here, the sheath gilding entrance, the sheath gilding top and bottom long, the 3 parts of the main body of the sheath, the end decoration top and bottom, and the tip. Now there is one model called Do Not Use String Cord. Obviously, don't print that out. That model is just a guide to tell you how to tie a rope on it, and we're going to do that at the end if you're interested. So if you want to tie a rope onto it, you're going to need a 70 centimeter-ish rope of 5 millimeters in diameter. Now the files for all of these are linked in the description below, as well as 3MF files that have all the print settings set up in advance. And if you do print the 3MF, I recommend you turn off the purge tower for the handle. Since all of the different colors are confined within their own layers, it's essentially just like using filament swaps. You don't even need to use an AMS or whatever to make it. Also, to get some extra resolution on the emblems here, I did use a 0.2 millimeter nozzle. On the assembly, you are going to need some glue. You should be able to use super glue for the entirety of it, but I am using some high-powered epoxy like this JB Weld for some of the more structurally intense parts like the handle, just to make absolutely sure nothing's wobbly. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started. We'll start with the blade here. The first thing I'm going to do is assemble the handle and the cross guard. Now, like I said before, I am going to mix up some epoxy to make sure this is all put together nice and firmly. Now, it's a bit of a tight fit, but the first thing we're going to do is glue up the inside of the cross guard here and insert the handle in. Now, I've already dry inserted all of these beforehand just to make sure everything fits together. But put that in as far as it will go. And then we're going to take our core 1 here, put some of our epoxy in here, and take one of our pegs, remember they're all the same, and put it in there. Then we're going to epoxy inside this entrance. And then this might take some elbow grease. We're going to put that in here and push that all the way down so that this red part is flush with the cross guard. There we go. And just because I have some leftover epoxy, just a little bit, I'm going to use it to glue in these emblems here. Some in there, flip it over, put some in there, and just glue these emblems in here. Now, just so you know, these aren't form fit in here. So these are only being held in by glue, but given that they're not undergoing any stress, as long as you've glued it properly, they shouldn't fall out. So there we go. Now the next thing we're gonna do is put a little dab of glue in there, and then put a rod all the way in there. And then we'll put a dab of glue on the end, and some on the connector, and then we'll put the next part, the blade 2 on there. Now this blade 2 is symmetrical. It doesn't matter if you put it on this way, well it's already glued there, but it doesn't matter if you put it on this way, or flip it this way, or get it any which way. All 4 orientations are all completely symmetrical, so you don't need to worry about gluing it on wrong. Now, one thing we can do is we can add glue to these little diamonds here, and then we can take the blade B and then attach them on like so, and make sure they're stuck in like that. And what that does is it clamps these 2 pieces together. And I'm getting super glue everywhere. And while those are drying, we can also glue the A blade pieces on, like that. There we go. And then we can do the same thing for blade 3. Put the glue in, put the peg in, put more glue on, here as well. And you want to make sure you put this on the right way. If you put this on like this, it's clearly too small. So make sure you put it on like this so that it matches up. Now, again, this is a little wiggly, but have no fear. We can glue both of the diamonds. We'll work quickly because we don't want the super glue to dry yet. Glue these 2 diamonds here and insert these parts right here so that it holds it rigid and in place. And then we can do the same thing with these parts here. And there we go. And then we can just work our way down the blade. And then what we want to do is when we're gluing on the G ones right here, we also want to glue the H ones on soon right after. So we can glue this all up, put the G ones on like this, and then use H to push it down. So push H this way. There we go. Now, while that's drying, we can take our blade design, and again, this is symmetrical. It doesn't matter which one we use. We're going to use both, but we're going to lay this down so that it's all lined up. I'm going to use this one because it's the correct orientation, just how it is here. And we're going to slowly take each piece off and glue it in. And there we go. Definitely got to let that dry for a bit before we continue on to the next side. Okay. Should be good. Flip this around. And I think this time I'm going to make sure that they're all unstuck before I start gluing. And now we do this side. Now, while we're waiting for this to dry, we can put some glue on this part in these grooves here and then put it right here. And there we go. See how that fits perfectly in place? And then if that's glue, oh shoot, looks like I didn't let the glue dry all the way. Silly me, I'm a bit impatient. Okay, that should be good enough. Wasn't good enough for this side, I see. But we'll do the same thing here. Glue up the grooves. And that's essentially the blade itself finished. Now, let's move on to the sheath. So we'll set that off to the side, let it dry properly. Don't need this anymore. Now the sheath is a slightly more delicate piece. As you can see, well, it's not solid. There's a big old hole in the center, right? So there's not as much area to actually make contact and put a bunch of pins. So I've done the best that I can to put pins that can properly keep them together. But honestly, I would recommend using some epoxy and not just super glue. So here's all of the pins, right? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 flat square ones, 1, 2, 3, 4 longer ones, and 2 of these double diamond ones. Now, as you can guess, here we have a bunch of holes. The corresponding pins go into the corresponding holes. Here's the longer ones, here's the flat square ones, and then the double diamond ones go on the tip. So without further ado, let's get our epoxy ready. I'm not gonna lie, popsicle stick isn't the best applicator to try to help prevent squeeze out. Now we can put all of the little pegs where they belong. Okay, pro tip, take them out of their brim before you start gluing. The brim's good to keep them all like together so you don't lose them. And then let's put these together just like that. That should be good. Now, I do kind of want to hurry. Want to use this same batch of epoxy. So I'm going to do the same thing here. Apply it around here. Hopefully no squeeze out. This here. Oh my God. Come on. There we go. Use the force of the other one. And there we go. Glued together. Woo. Now, one way to kind of hold these together would be to glue the long pieces in. So I've got some leftover epoxy, so, you know, might as well use that. Careful not to squish it in half. There. Put the other guy here. And there we go. Like that. Okay, I think that is dried enough. Let's move on to the finale. So the last part, one of the last parts, is to insert the gilding entrance on here. Now there's two little triangles right here and here that we have to get on the outside. And this plumb part right here sticks out. That should go into the divots on this bad boy right here. So for once, let's actually dry fit it. There we go. So now that we know it fits, we can glue it. Now, this is one of the most fragile parts, so be careful. This neck right here snaps really easily. Now, theoretically, we want to fit these parts like this. In there, like so. And then after we've dry fitted them, we can glue them to each other. Now, before that glue dries, you can see the double diamonds. That is the exact shape of the last little pins, little pegs we got. So what we can do is we can put some glue in these double diamond holes and then insert these pegs. And what the peg shape does is it holds them together. Beep. And then the final thing. Glue this, glue that, glue all around here. The final thing. You may even want to epoxy this final thing just to get an extra strong bond, but it should be good. We take the tip and we put it on there, and there we go. Now, from this point on, in the actual game, if you look right here, there's a rope. Now, I'm not going to lie, the rope hasn't arrived from Amazon yet, so I can't show you how to do it. But in the meantime, we'll wait for this to dry, and then I'll show you how to tie the rope. Okay? All right, the red rope that I ordered off of Amazon got delayed and will not be coming for another couple of weeks. So I am going to show you how to tie the rope onto the sheath with this USB cord. So in theory, you're going to want a 5mm in diameter red rope, about 70 centimeters. This here is about a meter, but I'm not going to be cutting it down to size, of course. So you should be able to use the assembly mode in your slicer to show the sheath cord, do not print, in relation to the actual sheath itself. So if you need more guidance, you can definitely use that. We're going to take one end of our rope and we're going to hold it next to this hole here. And then we'll take the other end, go back through the back. I'm going to poke it right through this hole here, okay? And we'll thread that through. Hopefully your rope will be a little bit more well-behaved. And you want to tighten this mostly done, but you still want a bit of a loop here. And what we're going to do is we're going to put another loop through that loop. Don't put the end all the way through. We're just going to thread a loop through here. And then we're going to tighten that up. So we've essentially made a slip knot. So we've got this loop right here, right? So don't pull this all the way out or else you'll undo the slip knot. So that's this side done. Now, we're going to have to do it in the opposite order here. We're going to make a loop so that the tail end is in the back. And then we're going to push in from the top like that. So we got this loop. We're going to go around the top like this and then poke it out through the loop we just made by going around like that. And theoretically, the two ends shouldn't be sticking out all that much, and that'll be much easier to control when you have an actual rope. Now, I would recommend that you put some glue or something on these knots because, again, these are slip knots. If you just pull right here, they'll come undone. So I do recommend you glue the knots in, but that is essentially how you tie it. Again, I would encourage you to use the actual model itself as a guide if you're a little bit confused. Well, that's it. I hope you enjoyed the build, and of course, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments down below or wherever you download the files from. And just a heads up, this took a lot of effort to make. The original sword file was ripped from the games, but I completely revamped it. I have completely smoothed out all of the polygons from the original 3D model, and I've added some 3D details like the bumped out pattern and this plum part that aren't actually present in the original 3D model. They're just textures. Essentially, they were just drawn on and weren't actually modeled themselves. I've adapted quite a few other models from video games, but this was by far the most complicated. So if you want to check out the other ones, you can do so in the playlist in the description. And if you want to support what I do, please consider subscribing. And please download, rate, and boost my models over on Maker World. Interacting with my models over there gets me points, which I can use to get gift cards, which I can use to buy more filament and other supplies, which will go directly into supporting my future projects. Also, I'd like to add that all the models that I design and showcase on my channel are free for anyone to download. So if you want to help keep that a reality, another way you can do that is to check out my Ko-Fi, link in the description. Thanks for everything, and I will see you next time. Bye.